Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Healing Journal. Today I'm going to just talk about something a little bit simple about forgiveness. I've always been a chronic forgiver, okay? And the thing about this is, it's a quality to have, but I was a forgiver to a fault. And I can still feel that, like if someone says, oh, but I didn't mean it, and I get that, okay? But if people kind of skip over, the part where they explain themselves and acknowledge you, that's where things can get a little bit messy, specifically with narcissists, okay? And I've experienced this quite a bit where I would forgive and forgive and forgive. The thing you must understand is the more you forgive a narcissist, the more their behavior escalates each act of forgiveness, and it's seen as permission. Let that sink in. The more you forgive the narcissist, the more their behavior escalates. Each act of forgiveness they see as permission, not compassion. Yeah, okay? You heard me. They don't understand, okay? And this is something I wish I had understood a long time ago. Narcissists don't have it in them to sort of come up with solutions like the rest of us do. It's kind of like you're dealing with a toddler in a way, but without the innocence. That's the thing, okay? And I think that sometimes we can see these behaviors and go, wow, maybe this person just hasn't learned this lesson yet, or maybe, I should give them more and more chances. And being a chronic forgiver, me specifically, I made these mistakes. And so I'm going to say it one more time. The more you forgive a narcissist, the more their behavior escalates each act of forgiveness. They see that as permission, not compassion. I wish someone had taught me this earlier, but here it is. That's what that is. Okay. It's a lot to digest, especially for someone like me. I don't like to be mad at people. I don't like to hold grudges. I like to sort things out and move on. And sometimes this can cause conflict with me and relationships because I want to talk about how we can find a solution, move forward, and try not to repeat the same bad patterns. That will never work with a narcissist because they live off patterns. That's what they live for, because that's how they survive, with that mask, okay? And once they pull that mask off, that they don't necessarily pull off for everyone else, but they definitely are going to pull it off behind closed doors. It's a nightmare for them once you figure them out. That's when they shut down. And I noticed in my past when, I finally had enough of it. I finally had enough of the abuse. I finally had enough. And there are things that I still have never even told anybody that I know that happened to me that I won't probably ever talk about. I don't want to talk about it, but what I will tell you is now that I'm in the other side of the healing, notice some of these memories pop in, and that's because of the chronic forgiveness and that cycle. And when you're in a narcissistic relationship, you live for those highlighted moments because they are really good when they're good, but they're really bad when they're really bad. It's going to be very obvious to the narcissist that that's the pattern. And if they point that out, by the way, that's them signaling to you, hey, you better behave, okay? That's what that is. And it's not like a normal, I don't want to say normal person, but a person who is not narcissistic. When someone who is not narcissistic and they say something like that, it's coming from a place of wanting to resolve something. And the narcissist, especially if they maybe aren't self-aware, which most of them are not, they might just find it in them to go, I really want this to work. Why isn't this working? And what they do is when you try to tell how you feel, they say that you don't listen to how they feel. And it can become so toxic, and then you go, okay, I'm trying to listen. And then what you'll notice, and what I noticed, for me when I was in it, was I would give the time to let this person talk, and they would talk. And then if I had anything to say, it was always spoken over. They did not listen. And even if they pretended to listen, they never changed. Okay? While I was trying to change everything I possibly could to fit this person's mold that they said they needed in a human being. And I'm a real strong personality. And if you've been watching me, or you know me personally, or you have followed me for a while, you know that I'm a strong personality. But where I fall short is in my personal relationships. Sometimes I'm not as good at standing up for myself, and I'm overly forgiving because I don't want to be left out. I don't want to be left behind. I don't want the clan to go against me. And my biggest fear actually happened when I have in my past stood up for myself. And this can happen even outside of narcissistic relationships, okay? This can happen with anything. And if you share with people how you feel, and then they get mad at you for that, especially if it's something that they had done to make you feel that way. I understand that we control how we feel, but the first sign of someone that is very toxic or can't hold themselves accountable is someone who completely denies the truth and or refuses to understand it with you so that you can come to a solution. And they keep repeating these behaviors over and over and over again. That is just dysfunction at its finest. And you want to get yourself to a place of healing when you're going through these things, where it can be, for me, I'm like, wait, but if I do that, even in therapy, I would ask my therapist, am I the narcissist? Because it's like when I would feel like, okay, the only way out of this is to be empowering and to start creating boundaries. And then I would question, wait, but isn't that narcissistic? And that's where I got stuck in the loop of thinking that I could have been the problem. And so, but again, I went through a lot of testing, and I did a lot of interviewing and a lot of therapy, and I'm not narcissistic. And understanding narcissists is a science. It really is. It's crazy. And Dr. Ramani is on YouTube. She's helped me a lot. I highly recommend her. I talk about her in my videos sometimes. And as I do these type of just only talk to camera less and less, I still want to put them in here because they still also help me process and keep me on track. So their hatred for you is so valid. Okay? You know why? Because you probably held them accountable for their vile behavior and or told people about it. And you probably pointed it out to them, which discredits their entire narrative. And where this gets confusing is if, let's say the narcissist is over here, and let's say your friends and family and other people are over here, and they have started to penetrate them with the lies, and that's what we call the smear campaign. So they're like whispering behind your back. They're whispering behind your back, and they're taking all the people that they think that they can manipulate, and they're doing it in ways you would never imagine. They'll take the tiniest bit of truth and twist it so that when you stand back and you can finally see the picture of gaslighting and you try to explain it to someone, you're going to look crazy, okay? This is the part of the situation when you're healing from narcissistic abuse that it's like a trap we fall into. And it's dangerous because it goes back to then we question our own behavior, because if everybody that loves us and that we once had as our support system is teaming up with this abuser, talking to this abuser at all, okay, and starting to distance themselves from you or shun you, these are massive signs. If you've been in therapy, you've checked yourself, you know you're not perfect, you know that you were in an abusive relationship, but you're still healing, okay? And these people are still talking and in contact with this abuser, okay? This is when these are immediate signs that this person had this master plan and it's working. Their plan is working. So you won't realize that the narcissist was lying from the very beginning until the end. You were in love or friends with or related to or whatever it is for you with a complete illusion if they were a narcissist. I hate to break that to you. I have people that are self-aware narcissists that have actually come to me and told me that this is how it works. Okay, this is not some loosey-goosey witchy stuff that I just went into my crystal ball and looked at, or maybe, wait for it, a little Nemo rock. What happened? Burp, 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 burp. That's not what's going on here, okay? Before I have spoken about this, I've talked to professionals, and it's important that we stay on track with this, because narcissistic people in this world, we cannot allow them to have all the power. That is a very dangerous place to be in. It's happened in history. We can't let that happen again, especially in our relationships and in our homes. So you were in love with, attached to, in a relationship related to whatever it is for you. If they're a narcissist, that was an illusion. That was a mask, okay? And as soon as you figured them out and started to point it out, maybe they started calling you a narcissist or a sociopath, and they started, like, that's when they were building, because they knew you had them figured out. And then what's happening is that you're getting caught in that web. And I don't know about you, but for me, I lied for, my narcissist, because I felt bad for them. I didn't want them to suffer. And to be honest with you, I didn't realize at the time that that's what was wrong with them. I thought that it was just alcoholism and substance and drug abuse and all kinds of other things. That's what I thought it was. And I had people in my life that struggled with things like this, and I had compassion for that. And so I thought, I don't want to just leave somebody that I care about. Well, unfortunately, and there is a difference. I just want to clarify, because I did go to Al-Anon, and I learned and made friends with a lot of really kind people. And in those areas, I learned the difference and how alcoholism can look a lot like narcissistic abuse, because their first love is addiction, right? Because it's an illness for that, in that way. But one thing I will say from my experience and in my opinion, I've loved people who have had problems, and I'm not claiming to be perfect ever, but these are patterns and behaviors I've been around enough to now figure out. So if anybody questions my truth, like I said, it's kind of like, yeah, you can see them. Yeah, you can see them from space. Like, just saying. So the hardest part about all this is understanding, because it's not you. So you're literally trying to figure out another person because they're not willing to figure themselves out. And that's kind of when I started to wake up. And I understand that, if maybe your job or something has these types of personalities, so it can be kind of hard. Don't try to figure them out specifically. Just, if you really think that they're a narcissist, you can study what that means, and you can learn the patterns, learn the signs, and learn to work around it if you are in a work situation, if you can't get away from it. But if it's somebody that you're in a relationship with, I highly recommend creating your exit strategy. And I know that's not what you want to hear, but even people that I know that are self-aware narcissists that are in a healthy relationship with someone have told me, whatever you do, don't ever be with a narcissist. And I think that that's, a really interesting statement coming from an actual narcissist. And I've been told that it's because I'm a light person and I like to bring joy and light. And I think anyone who's ever known me and knows me, despite whether they like me or love me anymore, I'm pretty sure that even if they don't want to admit it, they know how I roll. I mean, look, this is my Jimmy Buffett costume that I handmade. Like, I just love to have fun. Like, I love colors. I love experiences. I love to dream, and I like to imagine, certain things that maybe don't exist to the normal person's viewpoint, and I like to broaden that and get excited and have fun. And by the way, narcissists love people like this. I didn't know that. And I kind of knew that, but I didn't realize that's what was going on. I just realized that I was a good energy source, because they're like leeches. They leech onto you, and when they can't get that from you anymore and you start to dim, and it's like, poof, the light goes out, right? Okay, they don't like that. And they know that when your light goes out, you don't have any more energy to give to them. And you start giving it in other ways, whether it's trying to point out their problems, trying to help them through problems, trying to understand them, and you become less and less of what they fell in love with. And the trap for me, I was like, wait, why can't it be like the beginning? And usually in a healthy relationship, you can at least get back to solving a few of those problems, and nothing's ever going to be like the beginning. The goal should be to just get better and better, and it does change, and it's not going to be the same, but it shouldn't be getting worse and worse. And that's when I realized, when it was getting worse, that I was doing everything, but this was never going to work. So what did I do? I turned my light back on. I got away from everything. And it's been a really hard process. This is not easy stuff to heal from, and it takes time. I really can't even think about actually being in a relationship right now. And being single for the last like 7 or 8 months has been something that like that's how it feels right to be single. I don't want to rush into another relationship. I have zero desire to try to fill a void. There is no void to fill. There's healing to be done. And you'll notice a lot of times narcissists will either repair old relationships really quick so that they can get their fix of, energy, or they'll go and re-dig up old relationships and try to hook into those. Or you might have been cheated on like I was, and they'll have that new energy source waiting in the wings. They might have multiple sources of those energy. Those people don't know them yet. They don't know them like you know them. It took me 3 years to walk away, and I didn't even see the worst of it or know the worst of it till I walked away. So again, this is the kind of stuff that happens. And the worst thing that happens when you do walk away, because maybe you did lie for this person and now you're the one that looks a little crazy because you didn't share everything, or you shared too much, or you didn't share certain things, okay? And you expected certain people to be there for you, to support you. I know personally, I never expected anybody to fix my problems. I just needed a hug. I just needed to know that my support system was there for me. That's all I really needed. I didn't need them to go, do anything to this guy or anything like that. Like I didn't need any of that. I just needed love and support. And I really didn't get that. And that's a shame. But what it's taught me is it's taught me to be stronger and to be my own support. And it also unfortunately revealed, truths that I couldn't even have imagined. For example, sometimes these people will side with the narcissist because they are manipulated by them. And there's nothing easier for the narcissist than to play what they do. They're really good. They put those masks on. Okay, I'm an entertainer. I like to wear makeup and like to get dressed up. And I like to, during Halloween and stuff, I like to put masks on. That's for fun. That's like, and it's to spread positive. It's not to get anything from anybody. Okay, this is a very, very significant difference for me. Okay, I'm speaking from my point of view. I know that there are people in the entertainment industry or in politics or in power of any kind that try to wear a mask to get something from someone. There is a huge difference in a narcissistic person doing that and a normal person just having fun and enjoying life. And when you're dealing with people turning their backs on you, that's a whole different level of abuse. Okay, so not only are you trying to deal with the narcissistic abuse, but now you're trying to deal with the abuse of your support system completely gone. Okay, that sense of loss and that trauma, that especially if, I remember growing up thinking, wow, I can't even imagine going through some of these things that I had heard people go through. And then there I was standing in their shoes. And, I just got chills. It's serious stuff. And it's not, when you talk about this stuff, it's probably not going to make sense to other people. You're going to kind of sound like, and there is a difference between this and this too, where, those people that just complain and complain and complain and complain about their life. And they're enablers a lot of times. And I had a few of these traits that I had to heal in myself, but really they just kind of are just down in the dumps all the time, and then nothing ever goes right and blah, blah, blah. But they continue to surround themselves with bad situations. And we all do this to a degree, but this is like chronic. Okay, if it's chronic every day, all day, and there's never any happiness in these people, a lot of these people are suffering from abuse, or they are chronically ill in a different way. All right. And, I'm not a doctor or anything, so none of this is medical advice. That's not what I'm saying. But when you start to learn to read people, just remember, pay attention to how it makes you feel. Okay. And I know it can be exhausting if you have a friend or a family member that has gone through some form of abuse and they might be venting to you. It might be because you're the only person that they feel they can trust. And if you are one of the people on the receiving end of this, if you walk away from them or shun them, if they haven't healed from that abuse, okay, and that's the timing of your separation, that could put somebody in a very dangerous place. And I'm not saying that you should you should be responsible for their feelings. What I should say is just be aware and encourage them that they're not crazy, and encourage them to take care of themselves, and try to direct them in a way where they feel heard. Make sure that if these people are talking to you about how they feel, it's important, if you are a true friend or a true family member, that you truly love this person who's experienced abuse that they're apparently talking about, that might come to a shock to you. You don't really have to do much. If you just say these simple things like, wow, I'm so sorry, I hear you. I hear you. Just saying that alone can be healing for someone that's been experiencing narcissistic abuse. Don't get on the phone and talk to their abuser. Don't call other people behind their back to check to see if they're okay. Talk to them. Talk to them, okay? And I know everybody's fighting a battle. You know, a lot of people will fight their battles quietly. I'm fighting mine loudly. And I'm putting it on my platforms because I know how important it is for people to know that they're not alone, because there were videos like this that helped me get out of a dangerous situation. And the light finally came on for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get out. And the level of the lesson that apparently I needed to learn was way beyond my imagination. So just remember that, you know, these people in the masks, okay, most of the time, the people who abuse others, and specifically in my case, women, physically, emotionally, or mentally, are often some of the friendliest, funniest, nicest people you're ever gonna meet. They might be like, hey honey, how you doing? And I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but these are the things that you need to remember if you don't feel right and somebody's nice, okay? You know what I'm talking about. You know, like there's this really sweet lady online that's she's a nice Southern Georgia lady that her husband passed, and she shares a lot of stuff online because they used to have snack time at night, and now she shares her snack time with her audience online because she doesn't have anyone else to share it with. And you can just, even through the camera lens, you can feel that she's genuine. I just got chills again, okay? Like you can feel that. If someone is being nice to you and you still have like this, it's almost like going into someone's house and feeling like you can't sit down, okay? You know what I'm talking about, because our vibrations read the room, they read the person, they read the camera. This is what I'm talking about. The devil doesn't come dressed in a red cape with horns. They come disguised as everything you ever wished for. I'm not saying that your dream person doesn't exist, because they do. I'm not saying, you know, nice people in your family don't exist. They do. I'm not saying that nice people out there in the world don't exist. They do. Just be aware of how this makes you feel. And a lot of times you're not really gonna know a narcissist unless you live with them or spend a lot of time around them, which is why it's hard for those of us that have gone through this type of abuse behind closed doors for our loved ones to understand, especially if we had lied for them. And I had so much compassion for this person and multiple people I've said in my life that it made me sick. And they still to this day have people watching me. In fact, I'm sure they're watching right now, and that's weird. And I've had to send them private messages via video to ask them to please leave me alone, because I can see the data and the analytics, and because it creeps me out and because I'm still healing, this is a way for me to practice setting boundaries with vibes that don't go good with me. Vibes don't lie, okay? So, and also some of these people just act like they're in high school and they're older than me. And that's another sign that these people never grow up. And it goes back to me saying you're dealing with a toddler and not an innocent toddler. You're dealing with an adult evil toddler that never developed that part of their brain. From my perspective, in my opinion. And this happens because they were trying to protect themselves from something as a child, whether it was another form of abuse or it's embedded in their DNA because of generational cycles. That is a thing. It's like a computer operating on an old operating system, And instead of being able to unwire it and rewire a new operating system, like those of us that are not narcissistic, okay, they're not capable of doing that, from what I understand. So be careful who you feel sorry for. Some people are just really good at lying and playing the victim and changing the script at any time. And if you are busy, like how I was like following it, like, oh, okay, oh gosh, oh. And I was starting to mirror this because I was so desperate to fix it. And some of these people can be so smart and so good at luring you in. It's like, okay, you're waiting for the shoe to drop. What's wrong here? This seems too good to be true. If you feel that way, there's a reason why. And there's two reasons. It could be, and it could be both, but it's either that they are truly not a good person and vibes don't lie, or you have unhealed trauma and you're actually judging a good person. And that's what I thought I was doing. I was like, oh gosh, I have trauma, I think. So maybe I need to heal that about myself and I need to change. And maybe I'm the problem. You think that you're the problem. And I'm not saying that I'm completely innocent. Of course I played into some of this stuff because it was making me sick. That's what it does. That's how it works. And then you become a person you don't recognize, especially if you have to defend yourself. And if it becomes physical, get out. Get out. If you are defending yourself because someone is attacking you, get out. It doesn't matter what form it is. One of the biggest signs that someone is a narcissist is that their words don't match their actions. And oh my gosh, that I lived through this for 3 years with one person. That statement right there. The first sign that you can probably see in a narcissist is that their actions don't match their words, okay? And they might a little bit at first, and they might do some things to convince you. They might go so far to convince you to buy a house with them. They might go so far to buy you a beautiful engagement ring that you might have actually unknowingly financed yourself. Yeah. These are the things. And then you don't even know the whole truth. And then you find out that there were other people in the wings helping conduct this. And it doesn't mean that those people knew what was going on, but it means that those people also had some sort of narrative, okay? And it doesn't matter. What matters now that you're on the healing side of things is acknowledging these things so as you move forward, you know how to spot them. When people say something and they don't do what they say, or they're ignoring your boundaries, or they're ignoring what you say. Let's say, it's not a relationship. Maybe it's something like you're buying something from someone, or whatever it is, and they say it's going to be this much, and you say, I can't pay that much, I can pay this much. And then maybe this person eventually says, I promise I'll make this work. And then you spin circles because you attach yourself to the agreement, and then the person still goes back to the original thing, but they find a way to manipulate you so they have you here. And it can come across like they're trying to help you, and they might be, but there is something in it for them. There's something in it for them, right? And it might be money. People are really weird with money like this. Money is also energy. So if you're exchanging money with people, make sure that it's with people that you want to exchange that kind of energy with. This is why I'm very careful about who I work with when I do art and music, because I don't want an energy exchange that's off. I'm done. Those days are gone. That's why I got out of the mainstream music industry, because it got to a certain point where the money exchange energy was just feeling yucky. It didn't feel honest. It felt off. Because it was, and I don't want to deal with that. So it's something to remember, okay? Something to remember. And I'm going to leave you guys with, that narcissist, just always remember that they're not telling people what they did to you that caused your reaction. And even if you did, let's say you did lose your mind, they're not being honest about the things that caused you to get to that point. And if you're behind closed doors in a living situation with this person, okay, that's where the danger can really happen, especially if you're isolated and you don't have neighbors and people around you that can hear what's going on. Did you ever notice that when you open that door, they suddenly change. They're not telling people what they did that caused you to become how you started to become. And I am a firm believer that we have to own our own behaviors and our own feelings, but this is abuse, and it's manipulative abuse, and it happens slowly and you don't realize it's happening because it's actually physically rewiring your brain. That's why this kind of abuse is so serious and so unfair to judge. And that's also why people don't understand unless they've actually been through it themselves. So find your community. And I'm not saying to complain about this all the time, but part of processing what's going on is going to be connecting with people who get you and understand you. And, you know, some people naturally understand this. Some people went through the same type of thing. There's a lot of Facebook groups where you can see a lot of people's stories, and your jaw, probably just like mine, you're gonna have to pull up off the ground and close yourself with your hands, because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm not crazy. Surround yourself with people who can be there with you. And it doesn't mean lean on them and expect them to, like, you know, walk with you everywhere and sleep with you. And it doesn't mean hurry up, get into the wrong relationship so that you just fill that void. It means just remembering you have some people around you, whether it be online or in person, that are there for you. And that's a big reason why I started these videos also. So anyway, I know that's a little heavy, but I wanted to get this out because tomorrow's my 40th birthday, and I really want to do a vlog and video, at least, you know, within the next few days, of how I'm trying to move on and open this new chapter. And it looks a lot different than what I thought it would look like, but I just want you guys to understand you're not alone, and share in the comments below how you feel. Share your stories. You know, I think that a lot of us get apprehensive about sharing our stories, and the reason for that is because we've been told, at least I personally have been told, if you tell the world or you tell anybody about this, I will make sure that your life is a living hell. And you know what? They lived up to that truth. But you can put blocks. You can put as many blocks mentally and even online. Press that block button, baby. It's there for a reason, okay? Use it. I love you guys so much. Mwah! All right? And I'll see you very soon. Hang in there.